Hello and welcome back to Slide Into Sports, live on 103.1 FM WVLP Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Schleier, and this weekend of college football might have been the best weekend of college football, and perfect timing for it too, because the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings, as it is now the first week of November, their rankings are going to come out, and it's going to show us the true picture of what the College Football Playoff is going to look like at the beginning of December. Normally, how it works is the College Football Playoff Committee, they don't do preseason rankings, so you don't really know exactly where they stand. They wait till about week 10 going into week 11 to share their opinion on what they think about each of the college football teams, the conference, and in turn you get a view on what they think of each of the conferences, who they think the Group of Five candidate is going to be, like which Group of Five conference they like the most this year, and so on. And speaking of Group of Five, that whole picture kind of changed a little bit, and that started on Thursday when UTSA beat Tulane, who was undefeated in conference play at that point. So Tulane basically controlled their own destiny in the American Athletic Conference. They beat them by double digits. It was 48-26. UTSA just dominated in really every aspect of the game. I mean, there was nothing that Tulane could do to prevent UTSA from winning. They were on a warpath. UTSA was not going to let anything get in the way of their victory. And now that Tulane has lost, since South Florida lost to Memphis earlier this year, now South Florida kind of returns into that conversation for the American Athletic Conference title. And this year, and I've been saying this all year long, that, and really ever since week 1, but that the American Athletic Conference is going to get the bid for the Group of Five. And the main reason for that is because of the way they've played the other Group of Five conferences, and even the way they've played some of the Power 4 schools. I mean, Memphis beat Arkansas, South Florida beat Florida, and that's not something that really any of the other conferences can say that they've done, at least from the Group of Five. So right now, the key, or I guess the conference that's going to get the Group of Five spot is more than likely going to be the American. And those teams, especially those top 4, look the best. You've got Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, and really, I guess, 5, because you've got Navy and North Texas. But Navy also lost as well. And this is why South Florida gets brought back into this conversation for that conference championship, because now there's no undefeated teams in the American Athletic Conference. And by undefeated, I mean undefeated in conference record, like their in-conference record, not overall record. The only one that had an undefeated overall record was Navy. Tulane lost to Ole Miss, but they had no losses to American Athletic teams until this weekend, or this past weekend. Anyway, I'm droning on a little bit, but yeah. College Football Playoff Committee, we're going to see exactly what they think on Tuesday, and normally they make a little bit of a spectacle out of it. They create like this fun little graphic. They go through how the College Football Playoff works, and they also lay out how the bracket works. Like they show the teams before the top 25, the teams that are kind of just outside of the picture, and the teams that are in the picture, but where they would stand based on where they stand in the conference or just in the overall rankings. So essentially how it works is Tuesday night at about 8 p.m. Eastern, so 7 p.m. Central Time. At least this week, it's 8 p.m. The time is not exact. It's not an exact time every single time. It varies from week to week. Like This week, it's going to be 7 p.m. Central. Next week, it's going to be 6 p.m. Central. Then it's 8:30 p.m. Central. Then it's 6 p.m. Central for 2 weeks. And then it's released on Sunday for the final rankings, December 7th at 11 a.m. Central Time. So it's not released at the exact same time, and it's partially because of other games and other things that ESPN broadcasts like that is going on. Like the CFP committee kind of gears their schedule around everything else that's going on around it. With that being said, the CFP ranking, so kind of how, like, going into more of how it works, they project the conference champion based on who the highest ranked team is from each of the conference that's in the top 12 or in the top 25. So, like, for example, if you look at this week's AP poll, let's just pretend that this week's AP poll is the College Football Playoff Committee's top 25, okay? So the number one ranked team and the Big Ten Conference champion, or projected Big Ten Conference champion, would be Ohio State, because Ohio State is at the number one seed. They're the highest ranked Big Ten team in the top 25 right now. So they would get an automatic bid. Texas A&M is ranked 3 in the AP poll, so they would get the automatic bid as the SEC conference champion, or the projected SEC conference champion. Then you go down a little bit, BYU is at number 8. So they would be the Big 12 projected conference champion because they are the highest ranked Big 12 team as of right now, or at least according to the AP poll. And then the fourth, rounding out the Power 4, Virginia is at 12. So they're the highest ranked ACC team in the AP poll. So they would be the projected ACC conference champion. And for the group of 5, Memphis is ranked at 22. So they right now are the highest ranked group of 5 team and are projected to be the American Athletic Conference champion. So they would get the group of 5 bid. So one thing that changed from last year. So last year, the conference championships served some kind of importance because the top 4 conference champions got an automatic bye. So they would be automatically put into the second round and not the first round or the quarterfinals. So the first round teams would be kind of wonky just because it wouldn't be the best teams getting the bye. It would just be the best teams that weren't conference champions that weren't getting the bye. This year, though, this year's different. This year, the top 4 teams automatically move on to the quarterfinal round. So those teams, if we're basing this on the AP poll, would be Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama. Those 4 teams would get the automatic byes and would automatically be in the quarterfinals. Then the other teams that would be in are number 5, Georgia, number 6, Oregon, number 7, Ole Miss, number 8, BYU, number 9, Texas Tech, number 10, Notre Dame, and number 22, Memphis, and number 12, Virginia, except Virginia would be ranked at 11, and Memphis would be ranked at 12. So Oklahoma, even though they're ranked 11th, would be the first team out, because Virginia gets an automatic spot in the playoffs as the ACC conference champion, and Memphis gets an automatic spot as the group of 5 conference champion. So that would bump Oklahoma out of the college football playoffs. Now, this is all going to change pretty dramatically. I mean, assuming like you guys saw the carnage that happened this weekend, I mean, Georgia barely escaped Florida 24-20, and I mean, I don't know what it is with Georgia and clapping, but they somehow have figured out how to use clapping to their advantage. This is the second time in a month where Georgia has gotten away with some kind of clapping incident, except this time it wasn't Kirby Smart that was clapping on the sideline, even though he was calling for a timeout. It was Gunnar Stockton doing weird snap count snaps that were and should have been getting called by the officials, but sometimes were and sometimes weren't. The officials were not very consistent, but I mean, that makes sense, I guess, because the SEC officiating has been pretty terrible this year. I mean, they did have one of their officials suspended last week. So, or no, not even last week anymore. It's 2 weeks ago. Then Ohio State beat Penn State 30-14. It was a little bit of a close game at the beginning. Penn State capitalized on a couple turnovers, but then Ohio State just ran away with it in the second half and covered the spread. The spread was 21.5. Then you've got Indiana going to Maryland. First couple drives were a little shaky. There's interception on the first drive. Then Indiana went 3 and out and punted on the second one. But then Indiana started finding their rhythm a little bit. They were up 20-3 at the half. And then Maryland scores in the second half after Indiana scored again. And then Indiana just ran away with it from there. And Indiana forced Maryland to have 5 turnovers, one of them being a strip sack where the quarterback had the ball ripped from him, and Indiana just took it right into the end zone. So Indiana won that game in dominating fashion, 55-10. At this point, Indiana is kind of establishing themselves as one of the dominant powerhouses in the Big Ten. I mean, you don't really see Big Ten teams blowing each other up like that too often. I mean, Ohio State, if you look back in the past 10 years, Ohio State normally would do that to teams, and Michigan would do that to teams. And no one else really was doing that in the Big Ten. Now, even with the new additions in the Big Ten, you've got Indiana doing that, Ohio State doing that, Michigan sometimes doing that, Oregon doing that sometimes, USC sometimes. Like now there's a lot more. Now there's more teams in the Big Ten that are kind of beating down on their opponents. Ole Miss gets a big win against South Carolina. That was at home, but it was 30-14. Ole Miss just essentially didn't let up on the throttle. I mean, their offense just absolutely cooked in the first half. They scored 17 points and held South Carolina to 7, so they were up 10. Then in the third quarter, it was a little weird. South Carolina started crawling back a little bit. They scored a touchdown, but then Ole Miss got a field goal and then scored 10 points in the fourth quarter, securing their victory. After this game, South Carolina fired their offensive coordinator, so that helped a lot or not really helped a lot, but it exposed, Ole Miss exposed South Carolina's terrible offense with their defense. Because, I mean, the past few games, Ole Miss's defense has been a little bit shaky. So South Carolina firing their offensive coordinator is kind of a statement to the head coach, Shane Beamer, saying, hey, you need to get your offense in check. You guys need to start scoring more points and keeping up with the big dogs in the SEC. And Ole Miss is kind of starting to become a big dog in the SEC now. Then Georgia Tech falls to NC State, 36-48. And this was kind of a shock to me. I thought Georgia Tech was going to be able to take care of their business over at North Carolina State. I mean, North Carolina State has been iffy at best, but mid most of the time. They haven't really been all that great. I mean, their best win was against Virginia. Virginia isn't a bad team, but North Carolina State has also lost to teams that they probably shouldn't have lost to. So that's kind of where I get my overall impression of North Carolina State. This year, they lost to Duke, fine, but then they lost to Virginia Tech, which that's a game they probably should have won, especially after beating Virginia, And then they had a couple tough losses. They lost to Notre Dame and they lost to Pittsburgh, both of those on the road. They got blown out by Pittsburgh, actually. But NC State, I think they just happened to match up well against Georgia Tech. Looking at it now, North Carolina State, they can put up a lot of points. Georgia Tech likes to play more of a gritty game, and I guess North Carolina State, they were able to get ahead of Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech was playing catch-up the whole time. So, yeah, not exactly a winning formula for success. I mean, talk about catch-up. I mean, Vandy, Texas, Vandy was trying to play catch-up at the end, and they almost did succeed, but ended up falling short with a onside kick going out of bounds. The final score to that ended up being 34-31. Vandy was only able to come back because they scored 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. But end of the day, they barely missed the onside kick. The ball just went out of bounds and automatically became Texas's ball. And Texas was able to kneel out the clock. And part of the reason Vandy lost also was because they failed two-point conversion earlier on in the game, put them on their back foot even more than they already were. Diego Pavia didn't really perform all that well, or as well as he should have, and that ended up being the downfall of Vandy. And this is making me very much question Vandy and their legitness as a playoff team, because Texas right now is a ranked opponent. Like if you're in the SEC, and or not even just in the SEC, but if you have playoff aspirations, you have to be able to win tough games on the road. And right now, Vandy hasn't really won a tough game on the road. Their two tough games on the road right now are Texas and Alabama, and they lost both of those games. So, yeah, I mean, if you can't win on the road, then probably are not meant to make the playoffs. So I think even though Vandy is at 2 losses and still has a viable path to the playoffs, I think they're probably going to end up not making it. They're probably going to be one of the first ones out. So I will say it also doesn't help that the AP poll has them at 15. The College Football Playoff Committee might move them a little bit lower, for all we know. But, yeah, I mean, sitting at 15 right before the College Football Playoff Committee is going to release their rankings doesn't really lead to any good signs being shown. Speaking of teams that are most likely eliminated from the playoffs, Miami. Miami goes on the road to SMU, their first game outside of the state of Florida, and lost. Now, this is a game that I listed in my Patreon in the Risers and Fallers where Miami could lose. And one of those reasons was that it was the first game outside of the state of Florida that they've had all year. Home or, obviously, their home games are going to be in Florida, but their away games, all their away games were in the state of Florida. And then they go to SMU, their first road game, and lose. And it did go to overtime, but Miami ended up not being able to control overtime. They had the ball first. They were right about to score, and then Carson Beck throws a pick, and SMU just scores a couple plays later. They just marched right on down the field, and that was that. And all SMU even needed was a field goal. So even if Miami kept SMU out of the end zone, SMU still could have gone for the field goal, and most likely probably still would have won that game. So it just terrible recipe for Miami. It had trap game written all over it, and they fell right into the trap. I mean, it also doesn't help that Mario Cristobal, since being at Miami, only has 4 wins in November. I think he's 4 for 12 now, I believe, in the month of November at Miami. Not a good look. And, I mean, this was kind of the same situation when Cristobal was in Oregon. So, I mean, Miami knew what they were getting into. So, yeah. Notre Dame, they go on the road to Boston College, and the score was 25-10, but Notre Dame was struggling a little bit. I'm not going to lie, and that was not a good look for me. I mean, when you're struggling on the road to a one-loss team, that's not a good look. Maybe they were looking ahead to Navy, coming up. I mean, that Navy game is coming up pretty quick. That's actually next weekend, or this weekend, November 8th at night. It is at home, though, but still, like, Notre Dame maybe was looking ahead, perhaps. But struggling against Boston College, not a good look for this Irish team that has 2 losses and is trying to squeak into the playoffs. You can't be struggling against teams like Boston College if you want to make it into the playoffs. That's just, playoff committee 101. Oklahoma, they go on the road to Tennessee and they win. They won 33-27. That effectively eliminates Tennessee from the playoffs. Tennessee has 3 losses now. Somehow they're still ranked in the AP poll. I don't know how that happens, but yeah. I mean, good thing the AP poll is essentially irrelevant after this weekend. So, yay us, I guess. Virginia, they go on the road to Cal and they win 31-21. And Virginia was kind of letting Cal back into the game towards the end, but Cal just didn't want any part of it, I guess, and didn't want to spoil Virginia's season. So they let Virginia walk away with the win. Virginia pretty much controlled the game for the most part at the beginning. And yeah, like that was that. Virginia, since Georgia Tech lost, is now in the driver's seat for the ACC championship. They're the only team in the ACC that is undefeated in ACC play. Yes, I know Virginia lost to North Carolina State, but that was an out-of-conference game, or it was scheduled as a non-conference game, so it doesn't count as an ACC loss, even though maybe it should, but it technically doesn't. Anyway, moving on to Louisville versus Virginia Tech. Louisville, they didn't really have any control of that game until the second half. Virginia Tech was dominating for the most part in that game. In the beginning, they were up 16-7 at the end of the first half. Louisville only scored 7 points at the beginning of the game and then just couldn't do anything. Then Louisville's offense decided to come to the party, and they scored 14 points in the third quarter and 7 in the fourth, and that secured their win right there. And they held Virginia Tech to 0 points in the second half. So that the Louisville defense also locked in to get them the win. Then there is the Texas Tech Kansas State game. That game, I was thinking that was going to be a trap game as well, but Texas Tech came in and dominated. They forced turnovers. They did exactly what they needed to do to get the win. 43-20, that's just incredibly dominant. I thought Kansas State maybe could have won because they've been starting to quietly mount some momentum, and they're quietly playing well again. But Texas Tech showed that they are a quality team, like a playoff team. They can go on the road in a tough environment and win. That was a statement win right there from Texas Tech. So right now, at this point, since Cincinnati lost to Utah, which we'll get to that in a second, but since Cincinnati lost to Utah, Texas Tech and BYU are currently in the driver's seat for the Big 12 championship. It is most likely going to be those two teams. However, Texas Tech can change that because they play BYU later this year. Cincinnati also plays BYU later this year and can spoil BYU's season. So, Big 12 race is still pretty wide open. But, yeah. Speaking of Cincinnati, Cincinnati goes on the road to Utah and gets absolutely blown out, 45-14. Cincinnati just couldn't do anything on offense. Not even field goals. They were missing field goals, too. Nothing was going right for that Cincinnati team, and everything was going right for that Utah team. That's pretty much all there is to it right now. Just if you go back and watch the game, there was nothing going right for Cincinnati. Just mistake after mistake after turnover after turnover after missed field goal kick. It was a nightmare for the Bearcats. This was not a game that they would have liked to have let up, but they have decent schedule coming down the stretch. Again, they play BYU later this year. They also play TCU. They play Arizona, so they could still win out. Maybe Texas Tech loses one. Maybe Texas Tech loses to BYU. That's probably Cincinnati's way in to the Big 12 championship. They need BYU to take care of Texas Tech, but they also need to beat BYU. So, again, Big 12 race, wide open. And the cushion for Cincinnati got a little bit better since West Virginia went on the road to Houston and blew them out 45-35. And don't know how that happened because West Virginia, they now only have 3 wins. I mean, besides the Pittsburgh game, ever since then, they've been performing really bad just everywhere. And now all of a sudden they decide, you know what, we're going to spoil Houston's season on Halloween weekend. And that was that. Houston just was not taking care of the ball the way that they should have been taking care of the ball. And, yeah, I mean, they're still technically 4th in the Big 12 standings right now. So they still have a shot in, but that loss to West Virginia, that one just stings. I mean, that was West Virginia's first Big 12 win this year. So, yeah, not good for Houston, at least for having top 25 and playoff aspirations. Just not a good look for Houston. And finally, the last game that I'm going to recap here real quick. USC goes on the road to Nebraska and wins. And this is something I didn't think I was going to say because normally Lincoln Riley and USC, ever since they've been in the Big Ten, they do not travel well on the road. So this win, in a way, was a statement win. However, I feel like there's an asterisk next to that win because Dylan Raiola goes out about 3.5 quarters in, and USC was able to capitalize on that because Nebraska had to put in a inexperienced quarterback. He was a redshirt freshman, and he basically just had to, I guess, saddle up in a sense. TJ Lateef essentially had to just, put the pads on and hop right on into the game for Dylan. And I mean, that's just really tough for Dylan Raiola. He goes out with a torn MCL that came out on Sunday. Really, really devastating news for Nebraska. But on the bright side, TJ Lateef is going to get reps for the rest of the year. And Dylan Raiola, he'll be back next year. But if they're in this situation again, TJ Lateef, he's going to have reps. He's going to have played college football games. He's going to have that experience. And that experience this year might help Nebraska next year. So even though this season is basically over for Nebraska, they're still going bowling. They still have a 6-win season, so they're going bowling. But, yeah, I think Nebraska next year, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be a dangerous team next year. All right, with that being said, before we go into the college football games this coming weekend, I have a message from our sponsor. This broadcast is brought to you by Authentic Impact, a Northwest Indiana executive coaching practice working with family businesses to ensure their legacy. When you started your business, you made a promise to do things differently, better than anyone else. Over time, as the business grows, that promise can get diluted or even lost. Penny Schleier at Authentic Impact helps family business owners reignite that promise, weaving it into team engagement, performance, and hiring so your passion becomes the heartbeat of your company again. Learn more at authentic-impact-coaching.com. All right, let's get back into the Week 11. Wow, I can't even believe that we're at Week 11 already. But Week 11 college football games. And, technically starts on Tuesday, but the first game I kind of want to look at is the UTSA versus South Florida game. And, this would not have been on my radar before UTSA beat Tulane. But since UTSA beat Tulane, this one is now right in the middle of my radar. So let's just get right on into this. Obviously, UTSA, they're 4-4. Looking to, A, spoil South Florida's season, but B, this win, if they do win, it puts them one win closer to a bowl game. So, UTSA, let's look and see where they're at in the standings in the American Athletic. They're about 8th. They're like in the middle of the conference. Not too bad. They have a 2-2 conference record. They're just below Temple, East Carolina, Tulane, South Florida, North Texas, Memphis, and Navy. But they are above Army, Florida Atlantic, UAB, Rice, Tulsa, and Charlotte. So UTSA could prove to maybe be competition to South Florida. This is a road game for UTSA. Looking at this right now, looking at UTSA's road record, they're 1-3 right now on the road. It's not a good road record. So I'm thinking, at least just on first glance, that South Florida is going to win. South Florida is also coming off of a bye. So maybe the momentum that UTSA got after beating Tulane carries over to South Florida, and maybe they catch South Florida by surprise. But UTSA did also lose to North Texas a few weeks ago, almost a month ago at this point. But about 3 weeks ago, 55-17. So basically, what I'm getting looking at UTSA is that they are not very consistent. So I'm not very confident in UTSA's ability to beat South Florida. But because of what they did to Tulane, this could be one to watch out for. That one's Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Maybe keep an eye out on that one if you're not doing anything Thursday night. Then we move on to Friday, where we have Northwestern going up against USC. And that one could maybe be interesting. Northwestern's quietly been playing relatively good college football. They're towards the top. They're on the top half of the Big Ten standings right now. They're 3-2 in the conference. They are 1-2 on the road, though, and they are traveling to USC. And USC at home is dangerous. We saw what happened to Michigan not too long ago. USC beat Michigan 31-13 a few weeks ago. So that's dangerous. USC at home, not one to be messed with. So thinking USC should win, but again, Northwestern quietly been playing relatively good football. Could maybe pull off an upset there. And then that one's at 8 p.m. Central Time. So for Northwestern, this will be a night game. For USC, this will be about an evening game, I guess, because it'll be about 5 or 6 Pacific Time. Then the other game that I think we should keep an eye out for is Tulane versus Memphis. Now, Memphis essentially is in the driver's seat right now for the American Athletic Conference title. Tulane, they're coming off of a loss, and if they lose again, they are for sure out of the American Athletic Conference title picture. With the win against Memphis, Tulane can put themselves back in that picture. Will they be able to do it? Not really confident in that. They are traveling to Memphis. And Tulane, again, coming off a devastating loss. Their backs are against the wall. Maybe they pull something out. But, the way they looked against UTSA, I'm not feeling too confident. I could see this one either being a weirdly close game where Memphis comes out on top somehow, or Memphis is just going to absolutely blow Tulane out. Either way, I don't see Tulane coming out on top in this game. Then we've got Ohio State traveling to Purdue, and the only reason why I'm kind of bringing this one up is because Purdue has had a history of upsetting Ohio State as the number 1 seed at home, and this game is where? It's in West Lafayette. So Ohio State might need to be careful. Purdue almost beat Michigan on Saturday last week. So this game could be more interesting than people might think. I do think Ohio State still wins, though. I mean, Ohio State's defense is just something else this year. It's just insanely dominant. So I would take Ohio State on this game, but I would still keep an eye out for it. You don't know what Purdue is going to do. You don't know what Purdue is going to do when they play at home. They can be dangerous at home. Then there's Indiana versus Penn State. The spread right now is only 13.5. Total is 48.5, and this is based on what ESPN has on their website. The weather says it's going to be 55 degrees. Not bad. But I really like Indiana in this game. I mean, I think Penn State could maybe give Indiana a scare at the beginning. Again, this is also in Beaver Stadium, so this could be a trap game for Indiana. But Maryland right now is a better opponent than Penn State is, I think. I mean, the way both of those teams have looked. So I think Indiana should be fine, but Penn State could maybe catch them off guard. I could see maybe Katron Allen deciding to have a career game for no reason at all, just to have one. But, I mean, more for his draft stock. But, yeah. I mean, Indiana has great rushers, too. I mean, you look at the rushing yards, like Katron Allen, he's got 688 rushing yards on the year. Kalon Black has 619. He's, like, right there. And Roman Hemby is right in line with Kalon Black. Like, they're both above 600 rushing yards right now. So I think Indiana should win this one. They're the more balanced team. They're definitely the better coached team because, I mean, Penn State did fire Franklin like a few weeks ago. Feels like it was last week, but it definitely was not last week. But Indiana should come out on top in that game. They're the more balanced team. They're the better coach team. Like, they have overall better team, and I don't think Cignetti is going to let the Indiana team lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is get to a Big Ten championship, win Big Ten championship, go for a national championship. Then we've got Georgia, Mississippi State, and honestly, the way Georgia played against Florida last week, I feel like Mississippi State could maybe get them. I mean, Georgia got really lucky in that game. A few missed calls, a few weird calls, but Florida held their own against Georgia. And I think Mississippi State, even though the record doesn't show it, I think they're a better team than Florida is. So I think Mississippi State could maybe get Georgia. This is at Mississippi State too, so that's the other thing. Like, Mississippi State is one of the toughest places to play. All those cowbells going all at the same time, like, it just makes communication between the quarterback and the sideline or booth, depending on where your offensive coordinator is, almost impossible. So this game could be a very interesting game. So I mean, the spread right now, 7.5. So clearly the bettors think that Mississippi State could maybe pull one up on Georgia. The total is 57.5. So this is projecting to be a high-scoring game. I think the key thing here, though, is Mississippi State's defense. Are they going to be able to hold up against Georgia's offense? And, I mean, with what happened at Texas, maybe. I mean, they just need to make sure they don't give it up at the end. But ultimately, I think Georgia will probably win. I do think Mississippi State will give them a game, though. It will be a competitive game. I think it'll definitely be a competitive game. Moving on to BYU, Texas Tech. Yeah, now you know why I did the ooh right before I went into it. BYU, Texas, these are probably the two best Big 12 teams right now. They're going at it in the regular season. And if everything pans out the way it could, BYU and Texas Tech could meet up again in the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech, kind of on the back foot. They did have that loss to Arizona State a couple weeks ago, but because Cincinnati lost and Arizona State lost and Houston lost, Texas Tech is kind of back in the drive. They're back in the car driving to the Big 12 championship. Are they going to be able to hang around? Maybe. Maybe they stay in the car. Maybe BYU kicks them out of the car while they're driving. We'll see. Wow, that was a little violent. Anyway, BYU undefeated. They're traveling to Texas Tech, though. They're going to Jones AT&T Stadium. I feel like Texas Tech needs this win. I love the way they're built on the line of scrimmage. I do think injuries is kind of getting to them, though. But if Texas Tech plays their game and creates distance between themselves and BYU, I think they come out on top. I will say that crowd in Lubbock, Texas is going to be electric. It is going to be an electric environment. And if College Game Day is not there, I swear, that is a huge missed opportunity. You'd have the 8 and 9 seed going up against each other in a possibly playoff elimination game. I mean, come on. It's right there. I think Texas Tech comes out with the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if BYU somehow kept it close and came out with the victory. All right. Already talked about Purdue. Texas A&M, Missouri. Now, this is one where I would have had this marked on my calendar maybe a month ago, but Missouri, they're down Bo Perbula. We don't really know what they're going to look like going into this game. But that kind of serves as an advantage for Missouri because Texas A&M is also not going to know what they're going to look like either. So Missouri can maybe pull some plays out of the playbook that they haven't used. Maybe they make adjustments going in. But ultimately, I don't think that Missouri will beat Texas A&M. I think, again, if they had Bo Perbula, it would be a different story. I think Missouri could maybe, pull the rug out from underneath A&M and spoil their currently undefeated season. And this would also put Missouri back into the playoff picture, possibly. I mean, beating the number 3 team in the country, huge. But the way Texas A&M's been playing, I just don't see that happening. If Bo Perbula was there, leading the offense, I think the offense would maybe be able to contend with A&M's offense. They'd be able to go tit for tat. But right now, it does not look good for Missouri. I will say that. I think Texas A&M should win that one. Spread is only 6.5. But, I mean, if Bo Perbula was there, if I trusted the offense without him, I would be hitting Missouri to cover that spread. But I'm not liking Missouri right now going into this game against Texas A&M. So give me Texas A&M to win against Missouri. I mean, it is on the road, but still, give me Texas A&M. All right, now we've got Oregon traveling to Iowa, and this one could be interesting as well. Both teams 4-1 in the Big Ten. Iowa 6-2 overall. Oregon 7-1 overall. Iowa somehow still not ranked. Don't know how that happened, but I guess the AP, just doubling down on their biases. But it is what it is. Now we got to worry about the College Football Playoff Committee, not the AP poll. But anyway, Iowa, the way they're built and the way they play, matches up pretty well against Oregon. I mean, Iowa is a very physical team. Oregon traveling to Iowa kind of scares me a little bit for Oregon. It's going to be 49 degrees. Spread is Oregon favored by 6.5. I mean, Iowa played Indiana better than Oregon did, which is making me think that Iowa could maybe pull the rug out from underneath Oregon. I mean, Gronowski only has 946 yards on the year, which, I mean, not horrible, but definitely not great, at least in comparison to Dante Moore, who has 1,772 passing yards on the year. But they got Moulton at running back, 435. Oregon's got Whittington at 433. Dante Moore's brother has 443 receiving yards. Phillips from Iowa has 204. But, yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. Very, very interesting game. And I think looking at it right now, it's going to be a matter of who can protect the quarterback better. Because Youngalele has 4 sacks on the year, and Llewellyn has 6 sacks on the year. Like, Oregon and Iowa, like, they have people on the line of scrimmage that know how to get to the quarterbacks. So I think the important thing, like, this is going to be a low-scoring game. 100%. It will be a low-scoring game. It's going to be a matter of who can affect the quarterback the most. Who is going to make the other quarterback's life the most difficult? If Iowa is able to contain Dante Moore the way that Indiana was able to, Iowa could come away with the win. They really could. And I'm feeling pretty confident in Iowa right now because the way they played Minnesota now 2 weeks ago, like, they blew them out. And their defense held Minnesota to 3 points. And Minnesota, they do not have a bad offense. I mean, it's not a great offense, but it's not a bad offense either. So this is definitely going to be a very defensive battle. Yeah. And Iowa also put up 41 points on Minnesota as well. Oregon's coming off a kind of close game against Wisconsin, 21-7. So could be interesting. No, not even could. It will be an interesting game. The matchup predictor says Iowa has a 30.3% chance to win. Honestly, I think Iowa could maybe get it done. I think they can get it done. And, I mean, the nice thing for Indiana, at least, is that these are two quality opponents that Indiana has played on the road. Like, they played both of them on the road. So a lot of the things in this matchup, at least between them and Indiana, are pretty comparable, which is kind of why I'm thinking Iowa comes out on top. I mean, yes, they did slip up against Iowa State, but that's also a rivalry game, and they also lost that on the road. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily giving Iowa an excuse, but it's tough. Like, going on the road for a rivalry, it's tough. But I think Iowa ultimately is going to end up coming up on top against Oregon. All right, now I've got Syracuse, Miami. I mean, Miami should win this game. Like, Syracuse is currently 3-6. They've won one game in the ACC out of 6. Miami is 2-2 in the ACC. Like, I mean, it says Syracuse as a 3.7 chance to win. I mean, do we? I'm just not feeling confident in Miami right now. I don't like. How do you lose to SMU on your first like true road game? I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm not saying SMU's bad, but come on. I mean, you look at Carson Beck's stats. Wow. He has 9 interceptions to 14 touchdowns. 9. Like, there was 4 in the game against Louisville, and there was 2 in the game against SMU. Like, that's literally 2/3 of the interceptions that he's thrown are in 2 games. And those games were almost back-to-back. Like, do we think that he's not going to slip up somehow against Syracuse? I mean, we talked about it earlier with Cristobal's record in November. He only has 4 wins in November. 4. I believe he's been in Miami for either 3 or 4 years. So, no, it's probably 4 because he coached at Oregon before Dan Lanning did. So, it's 4. So, I'm not feeling confident in Miami, but will they win? I think yes, probably. Am I feeling confident when I say that? No, not really. No. I mean, you look at the tickets, they're $8. That's actually kind of crazy. Little side note, but yeah, I think Miami should win, but at this point, I would not be surprised at all if Syracuse somehow decides to ball out and beat them. I mean, they beat them last year, and now they have a better quarterback than last year. They have Stephen Jelly, so yeah, I mean, Syracuse also beat Clemson earlier this year, which isn't really saying much at this point. But, yeah, I mean, Syracuse, they could beat Miami at this point. I'm really questioning the legitness of Miami. No, not really. I don't think Miami's really legit anymore, at least since the beginning of the year. Low-key worried about Miami going into November. They play Pitt at the end of the year. Like, they're probably going to lose that game at this point. Then we've got Auburn, Vandy. I think Vandy wins that one. Auburn just fired Hugh Freeze, and Auburn only put up 3 points against Kentucky. Like, come on. I mean, I really don't think Auburn will do anything against Vandy. And Vandy, they're gonna have their backs up against. Like, Vandy needs to win this game. They're not gonna slip up against Auburn, especially at home. Like, Vandy plays really well at home for some reason. Like, they play really well at home, but can't do anything on the road. Just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, like, if you want to be a great team, you got to play well on the road and at home. It's that simple. Washington travels to Wisconsin. Washington should win that one hands down. It should not be close. The spread's 11.5. It should not be close. Give me Washington. Then we've got Wake Forest traveling to Virginia. I could see Wake Forest maybe sneaking away with the win here. I mean, Wake Forest did almost beat Georgia Tech earlier this year in overtime. So Wake Forest could walk into Virginia, take their candy and go, or take their Halloween candy and go. But, I mean, Virginia, at this point, I don't think they give it up. I think Virginia will probably win. The spread is 6.5. I'm going to say Virginia wins, but Wake Forest will cover. I think it'll probably be a close game because Virginia, for some reason, likes to play those now. But, yeah, give me Virginia to win. Wake Forest to cover. Then Cal travels to Louisville. Both these teams, low-key, are pretty turnover-prone on offense. I mean, you look at why am I blanking on his name? Miller Moss. He's got 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Saga Poltele has 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So, again, both quarterbacks pretty turnover prone. Right now, Cal's quarterback has maybe 300 yards more in passing than Miller Moss, but the running back from Louisville, Brown, has almost 200 more rushing yards than Raphael from Cal, and the leading receiver from Louisville has about 200 more receiving yards than Cal's leading receiver. So I think Louisville should win this game. But again, both these teams are really turnover prone. So it's going to be a matter of who wins the turnover battle. I think Louisville probably wins the turnover battle. I really, really like their secondaries. They're great at defending receivers. And Cal's quarterback, Zago Polele, he's a pretty young quarterback. He's fresh on the game still. So I could see Louisville's secondaries having a field day. So give me Louisville. The spread's 18.5. I don't think Louisville covers that. I think they win, but I think Cal should cover that spread. All right, then we got 2 more games left. We got LSU Alabama and Navy Notre Dame. So let's get right into this LSU Alabama game. It's at Tuscaloosa. Alabama looks pretty good. They had a bye week, which much needed for them. They needed that bye week. LSU fired their head coach, and in some of the TikTok lives that I've been in, they have told me that the governor of the state of Louisiana has apparently been on the field with the team this week, or this past week. So should be really interesting. But I think Alabama should win. The spread's only 10.5. Come on. Do we really think LSU is going to keep it within 10? No, I don't think so. Not at all. I think Alabama wins by 14, by 2 touchdowns at least. The way Alabama's built right now, the way Alabama's playing right now, and the way LSU's playing right now, give me Alabama. For goodness sakes. Garrett Nussmeier can stretch the field, but Alabama has a great passing defense and could easily, force Nussmeier to make terrible, terrible decisions. So I'm taking Alabama. I think this one should be a no-brainer. Then we've got Navy Notre Dame. This one's at Notre Dame Stadium. Notre Dame kind of coming off of a weird game against Boston College, but they always play weird at Boston College. Don't know why, but they just do. Last year, people were saying this is going to be a close game, and Notre Dame ended up blowing them out. I don't think it'll be that bad. The spread is 24.5. I don't think Notre Dame wins by 40, but I think Notre Dame still probably will win. Notre Dame's secondary, their pass defense, not the best, but they are built on the line of scrimmage. They can defend the run, and Navy is all about running. So I'm going to take Notre Dame here, and I'm going to take them to cover as well. And that is all that we have time for today. If you want to see more content, like my rankings or thoughts on the AP poll, more thoughts on the AP poll, more thoughts on the College Football Playoff Committee poll, ESPN pick'em picks going into the weekend, I post all that stuff on Patreon. Search up Slide Into Sports, SCHLYDE into sports, and it should pop up. I'm also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Have a great weekend of watching college football. And with that, slide out.